All right, cool. I think we're ready. We're live?
Yeah.
All right, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being with us. A couple of announcements and things I want to talk about. One, I'd like to, one of our team members, Jim Lingfield, is going to be retiring. I think everybody's seen the announcement, and just wanted to take this moment to really thank him for his service. He's been here for a long time. He's part of the core. And one thing you can always say about Jim, man, is the level of service and commitment to serve the customer. He was second to none. He just always wanted to do the right thing. So I don't know if you're watching, Jim, but we definitely appreciate you, sir, and we wanted to wish you very best of luck in your future retirement, and anything we hope we stay in touch with you. It's been a great sales week, man. We've been in 80,000 meetings, it seems like, and wanted to congratulate Dave Johnson up in the Carolinas. I mean, he had a big one yesterday, a big recurring revenue account, and it makes me think about how that happened, and what happens. And Brad, we were talking about before this meeting, we're like, man, we got this script on this image-based thing, but we really wanted to talk about how we're getting business and why we're growing, and a lot of other stuff today. Every dollar of recurring revenue that we got, or dollar that somebody gives to us, it's a certificate. It's a certificate that we served somebody else well at one point. And I was thinking about that on the way in this morning. I texted Dave and congratulated him, and he wrote back and said, hey, much more to come. I was like, that's awesome. So he's obviously in some other capacity served somebody well enough that he gained authority and enough trust that they followed and they did this thing with us. So, not to get on the preaching and go there. Couple of other things. I want to thank Jesse Brooks. Man, he's been a wrecking crew in the back. We're redoing our warehouse. And we're staining the floor, and it's going to look really cool. Another cool thing about the warehouse, and talk about serving somebody well, is we put a sign out on the road, right? And our goal was not to be a consumer, a B2C company. We are a B2B company. But we thought we could lure people in and have conversations with them. And Jesse just said over 30 people have walked in the door in the last 10 days because of this sign to buy laptops, to buy stuff. So if I were Cody Romans or somebody like that, just saying, I would be back there speaking with these folks and putting some of himself and this company on these folks. That's just really, really cool. And man, we just had a great week. I mean, you and I and many other associates have been planting seeds for the next event. So, what do you want to add, Brad?
Yeah, I was going to add, I heard something pretty cool this morning, in one of those meetings we had with a client. And, the thing that stuck out to me is, we had this, very, very solid, business-oriented conversation, financially oriented conversation. And then at the end, one of the folks in the room said, hey, man, just do me this one favor. If you're not going to go with us for some reason, because they're better technically. They have better tools, they have better response times, they have more appropriate support for what you're looking for, because, there's probably people out there who got better stuff than us. What I'm saying? We got some phenomenal tools, as we've talked about many times, but, this gentleman said, if you're going to go with someone else, that's fine. Just we got big boy pants on, and we'll wear those fine. But just be upfront with us. But please know that you're not going to find anybody else that serves as hard as we do, that cares as much as we do, that loves our customers as much as we do, and are really willing to do whatever it takes to keep somebody in business and functioning and doing their business processes. And that really spoke to me a lot, man. It's kind of a reminder. I think about the Jewish people sometime when they were making brick in Egypt. They're like, man, we're just slaves making bricks. You know what I mean? And it's like they forgot, man. They were God's chosen people. And in the same way, sometimes we can forget, This is actually a crusade to deliver quality technology solutions, right? And memorable human interactions. That's what we said we wanted to do and what we wanted to be. And sometimes we get lost thinking, man, we're just trying to sell somebody something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's so awesome. And I was in that same meeting and it spoke to me as well. And I took what we're becoming. Listen, I don't care what that contract says. If we get beat, or if you want to leave us because you hate us, we're not going to sue you, right? We're not. Leave. We don't want your money if we don't do what we say we're going to do. And back to Dave and back to this thing, the opportunities for so much recurring revenue that we have are certificates. Every one of those, every month we get because we serve another human being so well. And you know, we went deep into it, but I'm glad we took this time. So image-based backup, man. You know, it's a piece of we've came through this whole charter, you know, and we've talked about lots of products and lots of things. But you know what it is? It's to protect and access business information and systems anywhere, anytime. That's what it is. It's the data. How can I get to it? What can I do?
And you know, we do get lost in that sometimes. Again, that it's like. That it's an HP server we're protecting, or
Yeah.
it's a Dell thing, or it's an IBM thing, or it's whatever. But you really, I mean, all this junk is, I mean, it is junk. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
bolts, nuts, and electricity. Really, I mean, that thing, all it's really doing is providing a platform for somebody to run their business. Man, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's the protection of that, not the protection of the thing. You know?
Yeah, nobody ever really wants to understand this functionality. And we've done hundreds of these now. They're just like, protect me. Get me protected. Show me, ensure me that I'm protected. But the one we're talking about today is amazing to me. You know, for all these years, you know, you've had to take your backup, put it off the tape, restore it, load the operating system back up, whether it be 400, whether it be Wintel, Windows, Linux, whatever, restore it. That's done. That's over. Now we're to the image. I mean, a complete shadow copy of the platform. I mean, we can just. And Brad, you can explain it better than me. But what is an image-based backup?
So we've talked before in our other segments about how somebody can recover in the event of a disaster, because that's really all this is. Regardless of how you back it up and what technology or what application, regardless of any of that, it really is about the recovery time that you're going to be able to be that you're going to be addressing with changing these products. And so, you know, an image is literally taking a copy, a snapshot, or an image really of an entire system. It starts basically, it doesn't go down to the hardware level, but it basically takes the personality of the OS. It takes all the patches and updates that's been done to that. It takes all the applications that are running on top of that operating system, and then the data that resides on top of that. I mean, as you look through, I think it's called the OSI stack. As you look at what those things are, I mean, it really is. It takes all of those things and backs those things up in a simultaneous, at a single point in time, and then it snaps that all at the same time. If that makes sense.
And why is that important? Why do I need to capture all that stuff? You talked about the recovery. Why is that important compared to the file we talked about or the hybrid we talked about? Why is that important?
Yeah, so two really key differences. Comparing image to file is literally night and day. Okay, so what that's going to look like in the event of a disaster or in the event of an issue is, okay, even if you had the entire C drive backed up, what you're going to end up wanting to do, or what you're going to end up doing, is you're going to need to take a brand new piece of hardware or fix the existing piece, and then you're going to have to install the OS, you're going to have to patch it up, install the applications back as they were, so that means install media, that means new license keys perhaps, that means all of those things that it takes to install all those things and get them up and running, and then you take the data and dump it back. And I'm not trying to be outlandish here, but literally you will probably spend, depending on how many applications and things like that you have to install, you're probably talking 8 to 10 hours to get to the point where you can restore data. Now, as you look at the hybrid type of approach, or let's call it the old-fashioned image backups, that took data backups, but then a system state, right? And the system state is literally just the personality of the machine as it pertains to the OS and registry and applications and things like that. And so then what you're looking at in terms of a restore is same type of thing. You need to have a piece of hardware, you need to have the operating system installed, and then once that thing is installed and then you patch it, once you get to that point, then you can then you can restore all of the data and the system state, and then you're kind of back in business, right? Because that system state again tells the personality of the entire machine. And we've done that as well,
Right.
and that takes probably 6 hours,
Right.
5 hours, and so you're still talking a tremendous amount of downtime if you're obviously needing this thing immediately, right? But as it pertains to this image-based backup, there are applications out there that your restore time is literally as long as it takes you to understand that this other one went down, and if it's already basically even being exported to a virtual machine, it will take as long as it takes to start that thing up for the recovery time. Now there's a lot of gotchas there,
Yes.
okay? Even on the worst case, again, if it's a normal server, we've stood up an entire image of a server in 45 minutes. So 30 to 45 minutes. It actually took longer to get the networking in order to actually get that thing back up as it took to restore the thing. So you're literally talking, fractions of hours instead of a whole day. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps a lot. And so with the hybrid approach, I've still got lots of mechanical stuff to do. I've still got to build an operating system up. And image-based, if my hardware failed, I have dissimilar hardware, and I can just start up, and I'm 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
But what else does this give me as far as, we talk about these bleed over, especially in the firewall world and in the switch world where these unified appliances are crossing over. How can managed backup cross over to business continuity, for instance, or potentially a DR play? I mean, talk about this virtual standby, which takes that 45 minutes down some. Talk about that.
So there's one other key difference we want to talk about in terms of business continuity, and that's, a lot of people have questions like, well, image-based backups, and this is true of a couple of years ago, that if you took an entire image of a machine, when you wanted to restore, you get all or nothing, right? So I want the whole system back, or I don't want anything at all back at all. And that's changed a lot. These image-based backups are becoming extremely application aware, and what that means to a salesperson, what that means to us technically, and what it means to a client is, as frequent as they snap their Exchange server, for instance, oh dear God, I permanently deleted a folder that I don't know where it is now. I can't ever get it back. I need that folder back. Perfect. You can drill down into the Exchange like you guys saw in the webcast or the video. You can drill down and grab an individual folder and restore that back to a certain location. You can restore it back to a different location. You can grab an individual contact that somebody deleted. You can drill down and restore just a singular database and not everything. You can roll back transactions and things like that. It is extremely flexible.
Right.
It's extremely flexible in terms of restore, because again, you can get granular items, not the whole thing. That's one thing in terms of business continuity or DR. But then, what you're speaking about as well in terms of virtual standby, these appliances, depending on the ones you're talking about, these BDRs can double as virtual hosts to run these machines you're backing up. So to use a silly example, you have a SQL server or some sort of regular production server over here doing its normal business, right? And if and when that thing were to die, you need something we've already talked about to restore it back to. Another physical piece of hardware, a virtual environment, or something like that. Well, if somebody doesn't have that, this BDR that's actually backing it up and housing that image, you can stand it up on that system, right? And so with very little human interaction, with not a lot of trauma, you can literally say, I want to restore this machine, I want to stand it up on this piece of hardware, and it will basically rebuild itself, and then once it basically restores to itself, it will stand up and start. And so that'll get you back up and running. But if you even want to shrink that window down even more, as you mentioned, there's functions that will, that this same piece of equipment we're talking about here, as it's backing up, what it's doing is it already has a fully functional and ready image, ready to start up in there. And so the differential that it sucks over to itself it then adds to that image that's ready to run, and so there's no real restore time needed, right? And so it's as simple as saying, this thing is in virtual standby mode, or basically in BC mode, and I want to start this machine right now. And within 8 minutes, 6 minutes, as long as it takes again to spin up and start and get you a login prompt, you're back up in business. And it's a huge separator.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and it's not just, okay, so let's talk about, you talked about a piece of hardware failing, and we're on image-based, so we can talk about the full spectrum of the offering here. So let's say we want to protect against a site malfunction or a site disaster. True business continuity, right? So how could I virtualize this in a cloud environment so I'm protected? What would that look like?
Yeah, and so that's a great question. So let's take that same exact example, but let's say that those are off-premise. You're basically in the same position. So that BDR is backing up to itself, replicating off-site, and then you can conduct a virtual standby of those machines, right? And so let's pretend there's 3 machines, a domain controller, an email server, and an application server, whatever that is, right? Let's pretend that the customer's primary site goes offline completely and it's never coming back for a long time. Then what you do is you can stand up those 3 servers in a virtual environment, again, out on the internet, it doesn't matter. And then as your users come in and you are executing your DR plan, you know, they've really got a handful of methods to connect to that thing, and 3 are primary, just for those of us that are interested. One is you can have people RDP directly to those machines, right, which is remote desktop. It literally is, you know, an application you run from your Windows. I want to RDP to this public IP, and you can get into it to start working. One is that you do a software client of some sort. And for those of you guys who work remotely and have ever VPN'd in somewhere, you run an application, username and password, you log in, and now you can basically work by whatever it is you're needing to work. And then the third is basically a tunnel of some sort. For those of you guys who are familiar with networking, you literally create a semi-permanent connection between the cloud environment and the 2 or 3 other offices you already have set up. And once those tunnels are built, then people can basically transact business like normal. And so whatever their DR plan is, those options exist to enable them to connect and start working again.
And I think that last statement you made about the DR plan, that's what it's all about. It's planning. You know, everybody wants to say my tool can beat this tool up, or I've got the best thing. It's all about planning. But what I heard Brad say in layman's terms is, not only can I can I roll over to the BDR if it's on a virtual standby situation in minutes. We've took the image base from 40 as we talked down. Let's just guess 7. Now there's variables here, so don't hold us to these numbers. Let's say 6, 7 minutes. The demonstrations we're seeing is on the fly. It's a lot less than that. But you can also roll over that same speed if you've already provisioned a hypervisor in the cloud to, and it's on a virtual standby in a cloud. So if the site goes away, so man, you're talking now HA class software from a backup product, So what does that mean? Why did I say that twice? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, power ping and pipe in multiple locations, the software, the replication software, 2 of everything. Now, 1 of everything, the expense I'm paying for backup, and I'm sitting here ready to go. And yeah, the recovery time may not be instantaneous, but if you ask a customer, okay, potential 7 to 15 minutes for the price of a managed backup versus $200,000, how important is that 7 minutes? And even on HA, you lose stuff in flight. I mean, it's not instantaneous.
Yeah, and that, you know, and that's, I think, maybe one of the things that we've said 100 times, is it really doesn't matter what technically you can put into place. It really matters what they are going to do when something happens. Do they want something that they already know what it's going to look like, they already know how they're going to connect, and they just want to point from here to here and be done? Then that HA is probably best, right? And that money spent is probably worth it. But for those folks who are looking for maybe something a little bit less and can't afford all those zeros on the end, then you dial it back. And again, as you said, it's really is enterprise class recovery. It just takes it's just a little bit of a different approach.
And what's cool about the new products coming out, because we always talk about the server because we're more worried about the business line applications, But, you know, a CEO's laptop, we get more slack off that than we do anything. This, I mean, you get more hollering from a guy's laptop. It's broke. You can do the same thing. We can do the same thing on an endpoint. You know, we could restore it promptly and fast. It's the same image. It's just not server, it's Windows based.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, it's 11:20, so we did want to.
Yeah, let's open it up, man.
For questions.
Let's open it up. What we got there? Got any questions? Anybody on the phone? Anybody got any questions?
Is anybody on the phone?
Yeah. While they're queuing up some possibly, I'll go ahead and make another announcement. We're John Boyko, myself, and the HRC are in process of reworking the HRC website. It's going to be a journey, not a destination. But we'll be sharing that with you guys one day. We've got some pretty good ideas and some brilliant people up there working on it. And just wanted to mention that too. We're a long way away from it, but we're going to try to leverage some stuff in our arsenal that we have. I mean, you know, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of impact printers and matrix printers that a lot of our competition don't have, and we're going to take that to the internet a little stronger than we've been taking it. So, and by the way, we had a big, huge order off the internet this week for parts and pieces for tractors. I forget how many sets, but it was a large order, and so we're going to revamp that. And also a lot of there's some work going on an all-inclusive printing rework. John Boyko's building some custom stuff and some workflow and some custom content there. So,
if obviously we can open. I mean, even if the question's not about image-based back, hell, anything. I'll keep yapping for 1 minute though about something significant this weekend. We want to talk about the folks that came down here to train.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, we had some folks come down for the week and train in the back on basically knock operations, and Nikki, Zane, Dave DeCaria, they ended up taking the lead, and Randy Pfluger, those guys took the lead on coaching and teaching and mentoring, let's call it that, right? Showing people how the process works for support, how our ticketing system works and the tools we use and things like that. And it literally is like drinking from a fire hose. We get that. In fact, one gentleman said, "I just want to know it all. Give me access to everything." And man, I don't know if he knew what he was asking for, because there's just too much to cram into 4 days or 5 days even. But that really, man, I think I mentioned this on the last time, but this really is a huge shift between where we are and where we're going, because we've always had the intellectual property, and we've always had the tools and everything kind of here centralized, and we know this works. DeCaria, Jeremy Matthews, all the guys in Warsaw, there's too many to name. These guys have proved that you can labor and you can help and you can produce remotely, and so this is basically our first step to take that to the next level. So for those guys that came down, I want to say thank you. You guys know who you are, and for the folks that are going to be coming down, please know, man, this is just an amazing time in our journey.
No, absolutely. I think it's one of the rare things that benefits all. I mean, it makes the technical folks more valuable to us, more valuable in the market, more valuable to our customers, and it serves the overall journey of force multiplication and disseminating this information and all this. There's no way that Lisa Ablin's on the phone without asking us a question, right? Come on, Lisa, help us out, man. Okay, cool.
Look at that.
Alan Stott wanted you to mention the difference that we use a PMO to document the customer DR test.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. There's two. As you look at basically the DR process or the DR test that we do, one of the separators we believe we have is that when the DR test is concluded, we basically re-describe what happened, what the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I mean, any incident report that goes out shouldn't just say, hey, this bad thing happened, and then we kind of figured it out. I mean, it literally is, here's everything that happened, and then, oh, by the way, here's what we could have done better, here's what went really well, and here are the permanent changes we're going to make so to ensure this never happens again. And so, Alan, thank you for bringing that up, because that document is huge. I mean, I looked at one actually the other day for PA Housing, I believe it was, and in the case that the Jensen Warsaw aren't there, or in the case that somebody like me has to set up some sort of remote access for them, or Tony has to do that, or Tyler, it basically states, when these things come back up, here's the IP address they should be stood up with, here's how you affect that restore, here's how you do those things. We do that so that we're not learning that on the fly and learning that in the event of a real disaster. And so we think that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you look at the analytics, and I think I've said this on the video 8 times, you look at the analytics on what the recovery is supposed to be or what's supposed to happen, but you only know when you pull the trigger, right? You only know when you really, really do it. And that's what this annual test separates us. I mean, we're going to say, hey, the analytics said 12 minutes, but it took 48. Does that put you outside your window? Because if so, we need to look at a different solution. All right, what's the next one, John?
Kara wants to know, can a customer retrieve their file by themselves if they're vaulted in R4, R5, and how?
Okay, so
Yeah, good question.
So the question is so we offer a managed backup service, right? And that means that we will do it for you, or you can do it yourself, right? You have access to the same web portals. These things are web-based. So the controls, the control panels are on the web, and the searches are really cool now. I mean, like you mentioned an email earlier, or an email folder. You can actually go to the brick level in Exchange and be like, I sent an email, and just start typing in words that are relevant to that search, find that email and restore it. We will do it for you, but some of our customers, quite frankly, they want to be able to do it themselves for a comfort level, and they do it themselves.
Yeah, we don't hide that. We actually create knowledge documents that say, hey, here's how you do this thing, because we don't want to be that partner that basically says like, oh no, you are never going to be able to know how to use our stuff, because quite honestly, it's freaking simple.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But the second thing is, yeah, you never know, 1:30 in the morning when somebody's panicking, the last thing they want to do is to open a support call or send an email or whatever. Like, oh my God, I just did something terrible. I need this restored right this moment. So we really, really want to always empower them to be able to do that themselves.
Roger's got a question.
All right, go ahead. Open Roger up. Raj, what's up, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Got you well.
Good. Yeah, I was wondering, customers can retrieve their own data. We can do it for them, but there's always, adding the disaster recovery component, that line item, to an agreement. If we did that, how much does that improve the delivery of our offerings? Or is there an option?
Yes, sir. Okay, he's gonna put you on mute real quick. Okay, so the question was
Adding in DR.
adding DR to the back of this. So there is a relationship here between your managed backup and your DR. Specifically, what would happen is, on the onboarding process, we would come through these phases and understand these phases.
Yeah, and Roger, I think if we both understand the thrust of your question correctly, it's if somebody needs an individual something, or if they're trying to just get an individual widget, like again, they can do it themselves, we can do it for them. But in the event of a real disaster where the system is gone, if they have disaster recovery, the way that changes is that without DR, essentially we stand next to them and say, okay, well, we have your data. What are your plans?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, my plan is, and this is something that they should already have scripted.
I got you,
okay,
man.
I've got a system I got to buy, and when it gets here, I'm going to do this and stand it up, and then I need you to help me restore. Blah. That's what it's going to look like, right? And that is basically an ad hoc type of thing as well. When somebody is a contracted disaster recovery customer, then basically we should know what their plans are ahead of time. And by the way, we're the ones procuring the equipment. We're the ones saying, okay, this is going to be shipped to here, and here's when it's going to arrive there. And then they have options whether we basically do it all for them or if we only do a piece of it. So that's kind of how that differs. Does that answer your question, Roger?
Yes, it does, and I would think the same concepts would apply to both workstation vaulting, image vault, as opposed to, in addition to the workstation vaulting. Like you were saying,
Yes,
server
sir.
to Windows.
Right, okay. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the different server families, like Power or Windows or whatever, yes, those are very, very similar. What we're basically obligating ourselves to do in the event of a disaster. Now, and I mean, even though it's becoming more frequent that somebody says, hey, this laptop is really important, I don't think that we've ever had anybody actually say, I want a DR thing
Actually,
on
we
the-"
did.
Or
Actually, we did. You talk about the CEO at the Atlanta firm.
Oh, yeah. That's
He
actually
says,
right.
you know what? I don't have 3.2 minutes if this thing goes down, I want it active, brick level, image based, replicated. Yes, sir. And we put a solution in front of him. Now, he didn't do it because I think it was an emotional conversation.
But he did go halfway there though, because he basically the on-site IT guy ended up kind of pre-positioning a laptop that had his stuff that we could quickly restore to. So yeah, that's he ended up going halfway there.
But I'll go back to the original question. We have had customers have production failures where they did not have DR with us, and we've provisioned a multi-tenant or got them in an environment and winked at them and said, listen, I mean, that's who we are. We're not going to stop at the end of this contract and say, you don't have it. I mean, our promise is when you give us this money and you trust us, we're going to be with you to the end to get you back up. So we have the ability to not just provision in the public cloud. What separates us is we have the ability to provision in our private infrastructure. We have capacity available on the 400 most of the time and all the time on the Wintel. So I mean, in an event of an emergency, I mean, we can get you out of a bind, and that's and we're not gonna say, hey, we've got your backup. Now, hey, here it is.
Yeah.
We're gonna be with you and walk through that journey of that catastrophe. Well, anything else, John, that's up there? Because we're at the 11th.
Lisa laughed at your comment.
Lisa laughed. Where's she at? She's got to ask me something, man. So, she says. That's not a question, Lisa. So, all right. Well, listen, guys, we're 3 minutes over. We really, really appreciate you as always.
Oh, Lisa, hey, look at that.
Bring her in here.
Oh, I don't think we have time
We
actually.
don't have time to Lisa. Lisa, you got 4 seconds. Go ahead.
Hey, all I want to say is, did you publicly say happy birthday to Chris Damiani or not?
Oh man.
Oh my goodness. This is Brad's duty, and he has failed. Happy birthday, Chris Damiani. 29 today?
Yeah.
She's 29 today? Absolutely. So thank you very much, Lisa. That's awesome. Yeah, the birthday, I don't even remember my kids' birthdays and my wife's birthday for sure. So that's Brad's duty. And so listen, y'all, we're a couple minutes over. Thank you so much for your time, and it's an honor to serve you. And we'll be seeing you guys next week, man. Thanks. Bye.